Welcome back, everybody, to another Flashpoint team interview. I've got an absolute treat today. I've got the one and only HenryG from Cloud9 joining me. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. How have you been keeping, Henry?
I've been doing very good, actually. It's been an exciting week. We managed to get to Serbia and get our first boot camp under our belts. That went really well. Obviously, quite needed considering the turnaround between our team actually formulating and with Flashpoint coming up as well. We've had about 2 weeks turnaround to actually get this team up and running. So everything's very chaotic right now, but it's going very well. It's exciting.
Oh, it's good to hear. I kind of want to start from the beginning. I know it's a little bit boring to do
Sure.
this linear, but
Of course.
I want to start just by talking about your journey into this role, because obviously everybody will know you for your commentary, well, for doing multiple things within esports. But how did this opportunity kind of arise? How did it first come about?
There was a lot of things, I suppose. I always knew I wanted to end my commentary career at the end of 2020. That was always the plan, and unfortunately, it didn't go down the way I wanted it to. But people heard about my situation and me wanting to step away from the commentary world, and I'm not sure exactly how Jack and Dan from Cloud9 found out, but I think it was through Duncan Thorin. I think he kind of tipped them off. I've been speaking to him about my future and what I wanted to do. And I think he passed on the memo that I was available. I was coming on the market, as it were, for a GM role. I never wanted to do the coaching stuff. I felt like that's not something I can really thrive in. I don't have much experience as being a coach. I am not up to date with the current flashbangs smoke meta of CSGO in 2020. So for me, the GM role, and having a background in event management as well, it felt like a sort of dream role for me. So when they approached me and said that they'd like me to join Cloud9, it would just seem like it was such a match made in heaven. It was exactly what I wanted to do. They gave me the full responsibility, and it all just came together quite quickly. They approached me, I think, on like the 20th of August, and I was signed by the 25th, something like that. So it was a crazy turnaround. But they needed a team for Flashpoint, so it was all hands on deck to get it turned around.
And obviously from the announcement, we saw that yourself and Kassad were announced at the same time. So did you have any influence of him coming onto the squad? Were they already sort of pursuing him as an option?
So the first person I ever spoke to about the project was Alex, and he told me he really wants to work with Kassad, and obviously I did as well. So we knew we had to get him. He was like the first official signing I made for sure. I was definitely in talks with Alex before that, but it was just one of the players, or one of the staff members I knew was essential to the lineup. I think Kassad is so underrated. With what he can do, I think he proved himself with the Renegades and 100 Thieves and some of the amazing results he got there. And he just seemed like his CSGO career was kind of winding down almost, and I thought that was such a tragedy. That shouldn't be happening. He's so good at what he does. So we made sure that we got him on a good deal, signed him up for 3 years, and it wasn't like a deal breaker for me, but he was certainly my number one choice, and I'm very, very happy we picked him up, and he's doing a great job so far. Everyone respects him, and he gets shit done, so that's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, everyone was so hyped when that was announced as well. And just in terms of your vision when you came onto the project, I know you've been talking about, you wanted that responsibility. You want to take responsibility whether it works, whether it doesn't work. Is that something that you were sort of always very vocal to Cloud9 that, it was on your shoulders?
Absolutely. Like you said, I appreciate that people probably think I'm a little bit silly at times, or maybe I pour it on a bit too thick, but I definitely do mean 99% of the things I say, including like the statements I made about winning Flashpoint this season. I think it would be disappointing if we did anything but. I feel like we have the firepower, we have the experience, we have the staff, we have everything we need to bring it all together. And in terms of feeling the pressure itself, for me, that's how I thrive. I feel like I always do well in high pressure scenarios. That's why I prefer stadium commentary to studio broadcasts, for example. I'm sure it's something you can probably relate to. It kind of gives you a different feeling, that the pressure and the adrenaline, it takes you up to the next level, right? And it kind of lets you transcend whatever role you're going into. And that's, for me, that's why commentary got boring with kind of the corona situation, everything, and having to do everything from a studio. It's just not what I do. I've never done any bedroom broadcast. I've never done that much studio stuff. It's always been live events. So for me, having pressure and putting it all on the line and my reputation on there, that for me, it helps me kind of drive forward and have a sort of ambition, and knowing that I have to work as hard as I possibly can every single day to make sure this all comes together. And it just reminds me that I've got to provide these guys everything they can possibly need. And I think we're doing that. And I still think that we're going to do some amazing things with this team. So yeah, I know I put myself out there a lot, but at the same time, that's how I do my best work, and hopefully that will be reflected in the results.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely want to get on to sort of what you've been working with the team on at the moment. But just in terms of, what you mentioned about Alex being the first player you kind of approached, was that always the plan when you sort of came into this role, that Alex would be involved in the team as the in-game leader in that capacity?
Well, in-game leaders are worth their weight in gold right now in CSGO. It doesn't seem like it's a role that many players actually want to take on. It's a lot of responsibility. It takes a lot of time to learn. It takes a certain personality to pick it up. I don't think anyone can. You have to be a natural leader. It has to be part of your DNA, I think. So for us, having someone I trusted, someone I knew quite well, and someone I knew who could do the job at the right level, there were only very few candidates, if not only one, that I wanted to work with, and that was Alex. So once Kassad was signed, we wanted to make sure that we picked him up as soon as possible. And obviously he wasn't a free agent. Sure, he was benched with Vitality, but still, they know how valuable he is in today's CSGO ecosystem. So it was a very tense negotiation every single day. We weren't sure whether we were going to pick him up. Of course, it wasn't just us that were trying to sign him at the same time. I think there were 4 or 5 other orgs that were matching or providing an even greater bid for his actual services there. So it was very good that I have a good friendship with him. I've known him for a long time, from way back in the Source days as well. So I feel like he trusted me and he knew what I was building. And I don't think there's many projects like ours right now where we're building from the ground floor, is how I've kind of coined it. It's like there's plenty of international teams and lineups similar to ours, but they've all got their kind of DNA trenched within our older players, like formations. If you look at FaZe, for example, not to dig them out too much, but if you look right back to where they started, that's like back in the Kingwin days with the likes of like Michael Ellie, Scream, AZ. That's where that team comes from, and it's kind of been plugging holes and kind of trying to catch up everyone else ever since. And they've had some great results, but it kind of seems like a bit of a nightmare to sort things out to this day. They're still trying to find that perfect recipe for a team, and that's something I didn't want to have going into this one. I wanted to make sure that we built the team from the very get-go in the correct way, instead of it being players who are friends and trying to who they want to play with. It's kind of players in roles that are sensible and personalities that make sense. We're trying to build synergy and reliable firepower. So I think we've done that. I think it's certainly unique. I'm not going to say it's the first of its kind, but I think it's the first time anyone's attempted it in this specific way before, like having the right tools, the right budgets, and entering at the right time they can get the players they need. So I'm looking forward to what we can do with Alex. I think he's the most important pickup for sure. I don't think he's going to be the star player, but he's certainly the most important at bringing all the pieces together.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the other players as well. I want to touch on the UK lad, first of all, in mezii, because some people may not be totally familiar with him just because of the caliber of teams he's been on in the past. But how's he been integrating? Why did you decide to pick him up in the first place? What did you think he'd be bringing?
I feel like when I see a natural talent, it's very evident. You can kind of feel it. I've played with mezii like on Faceit and stuff a lot myself, and we've been trying to kind of work out whether he was the right pickup for us. And it's just one of those players when he's on the server, like regardless of the situation, you can see in his play style and everything he does is so methodical. It is so well thought out. And for someone that's so young, he is so calm as well. He knows all of the grenades. He knows how to handle himself and anchoring bomb sites, how to close rounds out, very good comms, very calm in general. And I feel like he hasn't been tainted by other teams yet. That's not a strange statement. You think, with other pro teams, you're going to learn a lot. I don't actually rate a lot of the other kind of, how am I going to say this in a polite way? I don't rate some of the methodology some other teams use in terms of how they're teaching their players or kind of bad habits they might pass on. I wanted it to be a player we could mold ourselves with our vision. Like Kassad and I could surround him with the right players. They're going to teach him good habits instead of bad ones. So I feel like mezii, he has the tools himself. He's got the skill, he's got the presence of mind to be a world-class player, but he definitely has a lot to learn. I'm not saying he's going to be coming in lights out straight away, but from what we've seen so far and the way he's willing to commit himself and learn and just absorb this information like a sponge off the experienced guys, like it's looking so good. He's always just so happy to learn. He hasn't got an ego yet. But it's just looking very good for him. I think he's going to be pound for pound my best signing, if that makes sense, because his transfer fee was €70,000. In comparison to the other players, that's very low, right? I would say I still overpaid for him considering his name, but I feel like in terms of pound for pound and what we get out of him and the return on potential investment there, I feel like he'll be my best signing. So very excited for Mezii. Great player. Hopefully we can hoist the UK flag once again and make a star out of him.
I hope so indeed. And you kind of mentioned it there in terms of like, you know, the other players are kind of help him to build up that experience at the moment. Is there anything specific they've been doing with him? As we, you know, you were kind of alluding to, he's come from slightly smaller teams in terms of, you know, the Cloud9 brand. Is there anything that the players, you know, like Esatag or Walksick, any of those players that have had experience on sort of multiple big lineups in terms of those high pressure situations, is there anything you've kind of been helping him to be, you know, adjusting to in this team?
We're just, the mantra of our team is like, you can be brutally honest, just don't be a dick. That's like kind of where we go with this. So everyone, like, just if anyone does anything wrong or steps out of line or gets a nade wrong or doesn't approach a situation in the correct way, instead of bickering about it and kind of being passive aggressive, which is a lot of the team's approach even today, the professional game, they won't actually kind of go over what went wrong. We're happy to tell people they made mistakes, but we're very good about it. We'll wait till the game's over, we'll sit them down and we'll go through it as a team. And we're not saying like, you did this wrong, you need to fix it. But it's like, this is what happened this round, this is like what we think would have happened, like what are your thoughts, why did you do this? And we just talk about it and we just make sure that everyone's like, no one's like feeling like they're being attacked or kind of like blamed for a certain situation. We're just like, okay, we lost this round, let's look at it, let's work out what went wrong and let's try something else in the future. And I wish I had some amazing answer for you here. We've only played 5 days officially at this point. We're going into practice in half an hour and that'll be our 6th day. So it's not like I have an amazing book I can write just yet on the masters of training rookies. But in terms of just being honest and being just a reasonable person, or people I should say, we're just making sure that he feels confident in the team and he can talk to us and he's not going to get his head bitten off if he doesn't know something. Honestly, he's been thriving. He just gets the job done. You put him in a position, you know he's going to get 1 or 2 kills. Safest pair of hands you'll ever see in CSGO. But watch his space. Hopefully the next time you interview me, I've got a better answer for you, because we need a few officials under our belt first before I can really say how he's doing. But it's looking really good.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a really good approach. Like you were saying, sometimes you don't feel like some of the other teams are, you know, quite honest enough as well. And I think, you know, that's how someone grows, right? Like through learning through their failures, kind of, right?
I feel like when you bring in, let's I'm not going to name any names, but like consider someone that's been around for like 4 or 5 years, have won a lot of trophies, and they're coming into the team, they're kind of having a bit of a flat moment in their career. For you to come in and say like, oh, do you mind adjusting this? Like, we don't think you're doing this correctly. They'll probably take it quite personally because like, oh, do you not know who I am? I got MVP at this tournament last year. Like, what are you talking about? My game's perfect. And then I feel like you could have a bit of a problem there. So for me, that's why having some rookies that can kind of thrive and learn off the other guys, that's a good environment. And if you can do it the right way and not make them feel like a dick for it, that would be great.
So I want to speak about Esatag a little bit as well. Yeah. Obviously, we've seen him being part of Astralis, but it was kind of a little bit evident that he wasn't being used, you know, just for how they were using him in the team. He wasn't totally getting the freedom within his role. So how is he being used in the team now?
I would say he has been used in technically he's the entry fragger, aggressive, kind of lurk rifle, whatever you want to say, if you want to pigeonhole him into a kind of a role. But for me, he brings so much to the squad in terms of like, he is one of the most experienced players on the team. He might not have the trophies to show for it, but he's played in a lot of teams and a lot of different roles before. He's been an AWPer, an entry fragger, a lurker. Like he's done it all for so many different teams, and I think he really showed his true value in Astralis. Like if he's given the kind of the spotlight and he's capable of showing the world what he's capable of doing, like I think that it's fantastic what he can do on the server, and his experience is really starting to shine within the team as well. Like I said, we've only had maybe 5 days of practice, but I would say he's second in command to Alex. Like he kind of brings so many ideas to the table, so many great kind of philosophies and like grenades we should be using and setups, and just like bear in mind, like people have been talking about like how much I spent on him and how much it cost and stuff. Bear in mind we're bringing in the 2020 Astralis like kind of strat book as well with that, all the experience that comes with it. So people who are kind of talking about the value of the contract, etc., trust me, we got our money's worth. Like it's working out really well. Like bringing in that level of meta to the squad early on and having that sort of information, bringing that sort of wealth in is just fantastic. He's doing such a good job of making sure that the team's set up in the correct ways and bringing these new exciting ideas in terms of retakes and executions and stuff. So in terms of us hitting the ground running with Patrick, it's been amazing. He's been so great at just taking the bull by the horns and making sure that everyone knows what they're doing. And he works really well with Alex. If they're ever alive, like him, Patrick and Alex together in any sort of scenario, they can talk their way out of it with the squad. They're so good at kind of scheming up ways to win unspeakable rounds. So it's been really exciting to see them work together. So they're a really great duo. Patrick is fantastic. Big fan of his.
That's awesome. You kind of touched on it there as well with the contracts, and obviously, you've been doing something quite groundbreaking in the industry with announcing the value of these players and how much you've paid out for them, like what their salaries are going to look like. Why is that something that's so important to you? Because we just don't see other sort of organizations, teams really doing it. Why was that so integral for you for this team?
I think it's just the next step. I feel like we're kind of spinning our wheels, and it just doesn't make any sense to me why we're not releasing this information. Like, if you're investing the amount of money I know teams are in towards CSGO, I feel like that should be a celebration. That should be something you should be kind of telling everyone about. She said, like, this is how much we believe in CSGO, this is how much we believe in this player, this is how much we're investing in this squad, and showing our commitment to the game in general. There's a good reason a lot of other orgs don't want to announce their salaries or their buyouts. It's not because they paid way too much and it's been bad business, or they're paying their players way too little and they don't want anyone to know that they actually got a couple of raw deals on the table for their players, which is understandable. Like, CSGO is a cutthroat game, and I understand that not every organization has the same budget as Cloud9. We're very wealthy in that sense, and we have a lot more resources than other organizations. But at the same time, if you want a stable, world-class talent, you should be paying them the correct amount. That's the way I look at it. So for me, it was more of for the players' move. It was the idea is that if the numbers are out there, players can assess their own value, especially within my own team. A lot of people would ask me, oh, you can see the disparity in the contracts and the salaries and stuff. Like, is that not a concern for you? It's like, no, it's absolutely not. Like, if anything, it should inspire the players with lesser salaries to actually start turning up and show us what they can do. The money's there for them to make more. And there's still ways for them to kind of have ambition and goals going forward. Not every other team. Most other teams right now still operate under the guys that you have to pay everyone the same amount, right? And I just think that's so weird. It's just like, that doesn't happen in any other sports. It doesn't happen really in the real world, in a traditional workplace either. Everyone gets paid different amounts, and it's just this weird taboo that we can say, like, oh, no one can know what you're earning, etc. And in a performance environment like sports and esports, it actually benefits the players of being out there. It might be a little bit close to the bone to kick things off because I'm the only team doing it right now. But down the road, when other organizations start doing it as well, you'll start to see the benefits of it. When we start seeing every player is getting paid a fair amount, and they know that the organization they're working with, their contracts are very transparent and their numbers are out there, you'll see a much more healthy ecosystem, not just in CSGO, but within esports as a whole. It's obviously a little bit difficult with CSGO because we don't really have an official circuit, as it were. Still a bit of the Wild West. But that's why I want to do it in CSGO especially, just kind of give us some sort of foundation for some normality in terms of the numbers going forward. I definitely still need to revise the formula a little bit. Like, it's not perfect. Like, some organizations still don't want to work with me on the specifics. They don't want to release the numbers, even if it's just a transfer fee. They don't want to even mention it. It's like, why is this a huge secret? And if you just look at the move from G2 recently with Nico signing, like, they don't even announce how long the contract is. It's just like, what are you trying to hide it for? Like, it's going to be a 2 or 3 year deal. Why can't even we announce that? Why is it such like a dark art? Why is no one allowed to know? I don't get it. For them not releasing the salary, I assume he's getting paid almost double everyone else. So that's why they don't really want to release that, and I get it. But things like the contract details and just the contract length and stuff, I think that should be at least released out there, just so we can see how long is he joining for, what's the commitment here, gives him a kind of indication of what his market value is and whatever else is on. But it's cool that Cloud9 let me do that. It wasn't like a deal breaker for me. It's just when I joined, I said I felt like we could do something groundbreaking here. We can show the industry what direction we should be moving in and stop accepting the status quo of everything has to be a secret for whatever reason. I couldn't give you one real solid reason why it has to be, but let's see how it goes. It'll probably blow up in my face somehow. We'll see.
No, I think it's a really good approach. Like, I think the innovation is really cool. And, you know, when you were coming out I was reading some other interviews, you were coming up with your reasons for it. And like, yeah, it does totally make sense as well. But obviously there's one still remaining member of the former Cloud9 roster, which is Floppy. And I'm just wondering what you kind of saw in him that he was already bringing to the team that meant he was staying on. And is his role going to be changing at all, sort of in this new look roster?
When I first joined Cloud9 as the organization, obviously the first decision I had to make was, do you want to keep anyone from the previous roster? They're obviously under contract already, and I was actually a big fan of the previous roster. I thought they, from a tactical point of view, were fantastic. They looked like they had a great approach to CSGO. They had some very skilled players as well. It just didn't really come together for them. They felt like with COVID coming in as well, they never really got a fair crack at the whip. They never really got off the ground. A lot of setbacks, a lot of disappointing results, a lot of narrow defeats. But generally speaking, there were two players that really shone, and that was Floppy and OC. So coming into this roster, like when we were kind of bringing together like my vision for the team and how much money it was going to cost and the budgets we had to set aside, they obviously were interested to see whether there were any current Cloud9 players that would make the cut. And for me, it was always Floppy was number one. It was always, he's so calm, he's so great individually, another solid pair of hands in terms of the anchor role and being able to be an aggressive lurker, I suppose. But he's just a role player that can really get it done. He's not going to be your star player, but in terms of providing a service, as it were, in terms of holding bomb sites and working with anyone or by himself, his comms are good, his mechanics are solid. He's got lots of experience, maybe not at the top level, but he's played like 12 MDL seasons or something ridiculous like that. And I think everyone knows that he's the next star of North America. It's just waiting for him to really come online. I'm hoping we can get the most out of him with this roster. Similar to mezii, surround him with the right players, he's really going to shine brightly, I think. And he's moved over here to Serbia with me. So being a young man, of course, he's only 20. He had to move from North America to here. So as a kind of sign of solidarity, I kind of made sure that I joined him as well. I made sure we're together. And it's going well. We've only been here for a week so far, but he seems to be enjoying himself. We're pretty hardcore with the practice. And he's got his own apartment here. And hopefully he'll be very happy for the next year or so. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of the practice that you guys have been able to have at the moment, what's your practice facility like? What are the days looking like for you? How much have you been able to get in within the course of those 5 days?
So we just clocked in 5 days at Relog Center here in Belgrade. It's one of the reasons we kind of established our offices here, because they have a great LAN center where we had the likes of like MIBR were there, EG, a few other lesser teams were kind of at the center as well. It just seems it's a bit of a hub right now in Belgrade for CSGO. So we're currently playing, we've got a practice day starting right now, so let's have a look at that. So today we're starting at 11 a.m. with theory, going over a map, and then we have practice from 2 p.m. We'll do 6 maps up until 8, I think. So the idea is normally try and get 2 hours of theory in, play 6 maps, small debrief, rinse and repeat tomorrow, with the theory being kind of how we're implementing yesterday's debrief into today's game plan. So generally speaking, 6 maps and some theory either side, and we'll be doing right now before Flashpoint, we're doing 6 days a week with Saturdays off, but we'll probably take that down to 5 days a week once everything kind of calms down. We're just under so much pressure, mainly due to my words on the internet and the fact we have Flashpoint in such a unreal amount of time. What is it, like 9 days from now? Yeah. And it's kind of crazy to think that we didn't sign Patrick until the 25th, bear in mind. So we haven't been able to play since the 26th. So it's a crazy turnaround. I'm not going to make any excuses. We're still the same objective of winning the tournament. I didn't expect the likes of Big and Fnatic to be brought in last minute. I wasn't expecting that, but it makes it more interesting. So we're fine with that. So yeah, 6 days a week to answer your question, and hopefully that's enough with 2 weeks of practice.
Yeah. So in terms of how Alex has evolved in his roles in the game leader, you were sort of saying, him and S-Tag, if they're in a situation, they'll be able to get out of it no matter what, just in terms of the brains of the squad. So how has he developed from what we've seen in his previous teams, like the likes of Vitality? Is he taking a slightly different approach? Anything he's particularly working on?
Not really. He's just kind of trying to take all the information and resources he has right now. Like obviously with Voctor coming in as well, you're bringing all the mouse sports information in. You're bringing all their kind of their approaches, and you've got S-Tag, you're bringing all the Astralis intel in, and then you've got, like, it might sound mad as well, but from the lesser players like the likes of Mezii and Floppy, you're getting a different side of the coin at that point. It's not the traditional pro level CS. There's like, you've got North American flavor coming in as well, and how they would approach certain setups. And you've got, obviously, it might sound mental, but tier 3 and tier 4 even, like their sort of strategies and approaches and their setups, you might not think it, but they've got some of the craziest setups because they have a lot more time to practice than the top teams, right? They have a lot more theory time in the server, and they've got to work a lot harder to actually get some crazy flashbangs or one-way smokes to get them the kill or give them the edge. So Alex is just still kind of downloading all this information, this crazy amount, obviously with Kassad as well, working with him. So in terms of his play style, he is happy to do anything. Alex will always be kind of first want to go into a bomb site with the entry player, throw himself in there. He knows he's not the star, but he certainly has the mechanics to do amazing things. I think he's proven that time and time again. He is a definite fragging in-game leader. In practice, he's looked really good, really stoic as well, just about what you'd expect. Again, not one of our star players, but very, very capable on the server, very calm, knows what he has to do to win the game, and hopefully he can hold it together for this tournament. It's really not ideal that it's online, I'll say that much, because we really wanted it to be a LAN kind of situation, because I think we'd be so deadly there. I think a lot of teams are going to fear us, knowing how much firepower we have and how much experience we have in our ranks already. And bear in mind, there's not a single demo of how we play on the internet right now. So we really wanted to have that kind of upset potential on LAN, as I know teams would end up playing themselves rather than us. And the mining games have been insane with me there as well. But alas, we'll be online, and that's fine. And we'll just have to make it work.
I love that, though. So are you viewing any particular rivals coming into Flashpoint this time around? You said it already, you want to win it. You feel like it will be a failure if you don't. Anybody that you really are hungry to take down?
I would say the international projects would always be fun to try and take on. Like the fact OG are there, I think that's really exciting, because I've definitely talked some shit about them and how long it's taken them to bring their team together. Obviously, they're quite a similar project to ours, but I don't think it was built in the same way. No offense to them, they're doing great stuff now, but it took a while for it to all come together, like 10 months before they started seeing anything promising. I would like to beat them, like to play them a lot. Content Gaming, I know they're trying to start a rivalry. I don't really see it, to be honest with you. We'll see if they can turn up to the tournament. But in terms of that, I really respect the hell out of Fnatic, obviously. Hopefully we get to play them. I'd love to kind of use that as a yardstick and see how we're kind of stacking up against the big boys right now. Speaking of big boys, big being there as well, I think they might be the favorites, like the way they're playing recently, the kind of Counter-Strike they're putting together. They might be the favorites in terms of being the most well-rounded unit going into this one. So I actually think, in terms of, we haven't got any crazy rivalries there, like it would have to be Team Liquid would be our number one rival, obviously not playing. That's the one I'm waiting for in the future. But for now, I think OG would be an amazing situation for us. That'd be a really fun rivalry.
I'd love to see that. And just in terms of your own role as well, now that you're with the guys in this boot camp, been on it for 5-6 days now, how have you been developing into this role? What have you been doing?
So at this point, I'm more of the face of the team. Like, obviously my main role is to bring the team together, make sure everyone's happy, give them everything they possibly need. And in a LAN tournament environment, I can really kind of provide a lot more. I can be there for the boys. Obviously at the boot camp, I was there every step of the way, making sure they were happy, making sure they got everything they needed. But now we're going to online. My options are limited as to what I can provide. So for me, I'm more of a hype man, kind of there for them on the servers and the practice as well. I'll be on TeamSpeak with them, and I'll do all this sort of stuff as well. I'll make sure I alleviate some of the pressure by doing a lot of the media work and making sure I'm the face of the team. I guess that's one benefit of having a loudmouth like me as a GM. Everyone knows who I am. And I can handle all of this sort of stuff, and everyone's happy for me to do it. So, yeah, just alleviating pressure wherever I can. Obviously, the pressure's gone down a bit now. Now we've got a team put together. That was the biggest task. But we're still on the lookout for a sixth player. My job is never done. So, always working together, what I can bring to the boys, what I can do to improve their situation, and looking out for the plans in the future as well. Like, I obviously handle all the tournaments we're playing in. And making sure the schedule makes sense, coming up with the practice routines and stuff. So yeah, my workload's certainly gone down, but kind of face of the team right now is what I'm focusing on.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that. You were saying about getting a sixth man into your roster. I was watching an interview from it must have been a couple of weeks ago. Have you made any progress on that? Has the shortlist been narrowed down anymore? Anybody you're particularly working on getting?
I definitely have a shortlist, but right now, especially when we're online, the sixth player for us is not like a vitality situation where they brought in Navera to actively sub someone out. We've got, it's more of a, when I say sixth, I would say it's more of replacement player, right? It's someone who is there, who is capable, who is experienced to fill in any role when we need them to, right? So it has to be someone who's played at the highest level, but maybe coming down from the peak of their career, probably looking for something a little bit less hardcore, ready to play, and looking for a more kind of casual environment. Like ideally for me, it would be someone who's a streamer and has their own life outside of the professional scope, or someone who wants to be a streamer, and someone who's been a top player before. So definitely have a short list. It's just not high priority for me right now. Like trying to sign that deal, get it over the line when it's just not really required right now. As I said, it's to replace fatigued players, and I really hope they're not fatigued after 5 days of practice. So I think this is something definitely I'll be looking into this year, but I won't be signing anything until 2021. I feel like the CSGO landscape, it's already quite questionable right now, and I've spent a lot of money investing in CSGO. We're probably just going to put the brakes on in terms of throwing money around for now and just see how this goes and look out for any potential six. And I'm definitely still having conversations, but I just want to be a bit more careful with our budgets right now, see how the team goes, see if it's required, and see how everyone's shaping up in the next few months.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see how, different teams are utilising it. Obviously, this weekend, just in Vitality utilising a sixth man mid-series, and Astralis was more for, long stretches of time. So yeah, I'm super excited to see exactly what you're going to be bringing, super excited to see what you're going to be bringing to Flashpoint. I'm so sorry that this ended up going over. It's just been fantastic to hear from you, Henry.
No, it's great stuff. I love talking about myself, so don't worry about it. It's always well.
Well, I'll let you go and finish off your burrito and your lemonade as well. Thank you so much for chatting to me. I'm so excited to see what Cloud9 are going to be bringing to Flashpoint. Cannot wait.
Cheers for out.